we fail to acknowledge these things. We, as this society, not just in this society, but in general, when we talk about health, we have focused a lot on physical health. You find some 10 gyms near you, so many things, so many juice walas, all kinds of things to take care of your physical health. But that's not happening for mental health. Somehow, through all these years, through these centuries, we have suppressed it. We haven't talked about it. And that's why it's more important to talk about it, because this is a neglected part of in our daily lifestyle. I can ask you this question: how many of you do something or the other for yourself, just to take care of your emotions? And I'm sure the number will be far lesser as compared to if I ask what all do you do to take care of your physical health. Something or the other, everybody does do. So I think that's one part. And because we've neglected mental health so much, that's why there are so many mental health issues that have started coming up. And for how long can you keep avoiding and neglecting something which is very much a part of our daily lives? So that's how I think all these issues have started coming up. I think they were always there. One good thing is that we've started talking about it openly. The shame is going away, and as much as there's some bit of it happening, pandemic has helped a lot in people initiating those conversations, people opening up about their struggles, but there is a lot more. That's not least important. It is as important as being any age group, any phase of your life, it will always be important. So teenage go, youngsters go, I think it's equally important.
Dynamic thing is quite true. Most of us, I think, realize that it's okay to talk about mental health. It's okay to come up and ask for help, have a problem, and we need to talk. I think yes, it's very important to discuss about this. Okay, Dr. Mathur, do you think mental health issues are a result of temporary changes or factors like change in environment, location, people, competition, academics, and so on, or there has to be something already prevailing within the mind?
Both is what I think. There might be something that's already. So whenever I meet somebody in capacity of a person I'm going to work with in tech, so I do talk about what has happened recently, what has triggered whatever they're struggling with. But I also do look at what might have happened before this. Where did it all start from? So we all have our different life stories, and all of it impacts the way we form our personality, the way we are shaped. So it is always interlinked. It's always about the context, about what story you're coming from, which place are you coming from. For me, something would be very for me getting yelled at by my mother. I don't get yelled at that often, which is physical example. So for me, it might be something that I can cope up with very easily. Because now, or whatever my story might be. For you, it might be different if that happens to you. Because again, now why did that happen? I will look at what your story is, what are the factors, what happened in the day, what's been happening with you and your mother, the relationship there. So there's so much more to think about. There's so much more to focus on. So yes, there are a lot of changes in the environment right now. There's a lot of stress. There's a lot of competition. There are these boxes that everybody's running. We're being forced to fit into it. Be it beauty, be it academics, be it career. There's certain set norms that this is right, and a lot of the other, like how we say, diversity. We somewhere are not respecting diversity in all these aspects, and that's where I think this whole competition thing comes from. If we start respecting each human for who they are, with their unique talents and whatever, then we won't need these boxes. Competition will go, the pressure will go. But right now it's the opposite, which I keep thinking about this. Where is this pressure coming from? It does come from my immediate environment, be it my home, then my workplace, then my social gatherings, and then it is a bigger thing as well. So, bigger phenomena where there is communication, there is globalization. Certain things are more celebrated than the others, and it is but natural to want to become something where you are also equally celebrated. But that norm, that's very narrow. human race, like you said, diversity will come in all shapes, colors, sizes, it's all sorts of talents, but somewhere we don't trust knowledge. So I think again, not being seen the way you want, not being acknowledged for who you are, that again just creates a lot of pressure on you.
So you talked about diversity and you talked about inclusion. So like it's a very narrowed norm, and if you are in that norm, you are celebrated. And but there is diversity, right? It is not equally acknowledged. So there are, of course, there are many people who come, like for example, there are many accomplished filmmakers and actors, but they come from engineering colleges, right? And I'm sure now also there are many over here present who really don't know, who want to do something more, right? So being different, how there's a certain, you want to be different, you want to do what makes you happy, but the norm that the society just doesn't support that in the way you want them to. So how do you cope up with that pressure that that the society is telling you what to do but you're not doing the same? So how do you sort of cope up with that? How do you?
I don't think there's one right way to go about it. Different things might work for different people, and that's true for anything to do with mental health. There are different people. Everybody's stories are different. But I would say that I would probably suggest you to read or listen to people who have decided to not go or go against the system, choose a different path, and how did they cope with it? There are people like people who I know who have gone against the system, who have been there with them since the beginning, and they had their families that helped them a lot. No matter what the society says, at the end of the day, they had these groups of people who did support them. So that's what worked for them. Some people, they find the support in their friends. Some people find the support in different activities like painting or dancing or music. So different things. So it's important to understand what is your source of strength and to build it, give it that time. It's not that one day when you decide to be different and you will have it all regularly. Okay, these are the ways I'm going to cope. Your coping mechanism, developing it is also a process. It does take time. We Google ways to cope with stress, ways to cope with anxiety. There are 5,000 or more in that strategies and ways in which we can do that. But not all of it will work for all of us. Like I keep coming across this one thing, that meditation and yoga. It is a very celebrated thing, and it's something that we just is almost prescribed to everybody. But it's also something that doesn't work for everybody.
Like they said, deep breaths. I tried that, it doesn't really work that well for me.
For deep breathing, actually, that basic that might work for everybody. I would use it as an SOS for anxiety or stress because it's basically breathing. Breathing works for humans as however, deep breathing I feel somewhere along those lines. But again, there are different ways. For some people, in the given moment, deep breathing might not work, but listening to music calms them down. Might work. So it is about finding what works for you. Give yourself that time. Usually what happens is these days everybody's talking about mental health, everybody's doing something to do with their self-care and how to cope with these difficult things, and they seem to know what to do or how to go about it. This is what I need, this is what I want. That's not the popular narrative. What they don't talk about is how did you come to that? How did you, what are the things that you tried, you failed at, and then you thought, okay, this is what I need to do. This is what I'm not doing.
How did they approach that?
You could find out about it and give yourself that time. You must find out what would be your source of strength, what would be your coping mechanism. It will be different for different people. Even within same class, same group of friends, different people will have different ways of doing things. And again, it is about diversity. We need to sort of acknowledge that, accept that within ourselves. And if we appreciate ourselves for who we are rather than saying that anyway, all those 10 people, they found this support in painting, I should also have that. Painting should make me feel this. It might not make you feel that. And that's nothing wrong with it. Probably maybe try, even try to move this fit and way.
even when people are suffering from issues, they will just say that I'm doing so and so to work on my mental health just to let you know. Like I do have people I know who say that they meditate and they do this, they do that, work on their mental health. But I know somewhere that it's not real. It's just to pretend that yes, I'm doing it, just to pretend that yes, I am talking about mental health. Okay, but it's all pretentious. There's nothing real and raw in that. So I think all these things where people talk about this and so work for you might not be so correct. I mean, meditation worked for me, but it did not work for one of my friends. But people don't keep pretending. Still, people pretend that yes, things are working for them, and they just do it for the sake of it.
So I think that's why it's important to have this conversation. To know that there will be different things. It's okay to not be the same as everybody else.
Stay with the person.
It's not
Yeah.
I know people who sleep also doesn't work. Sleeping too much makes them feel guilty and again disheartened. Again, it's difficult.
So, you know how depression, anxiety, these words are used in a very casual way now. You know that in a very sarcastic and funny way. So, how do you think that affects those people who are actually suffering from it? Like yeah, even I do sometimes. Like suppose I have my exam next week, so I just joke. Like it's become so normal that people joke about it. Like I joke, my friends joke about it, that we are all depressed and all. But how different it is from those who are actually in that, who are actually suffering from that problem. Do you think it's very different? Do we have an idea? And how does it affect them when they hear this? That how casually they do it?
I think that's the problem of lack of awareness. Both sides that people who might not necessarily be clinically depressed, they do say that I'm depressed, I get those things for granted. If you give me a thing, saying I'm depressed, you can survive. But it is not that, but people don't know what depression really is. Although we've talked about it, we might have seen it being represented somewhere or the other in the popular culture, but what is the intensity of it? What's the extent of it? Very few of us get to see that. And also because there is this whole thing of you cannot show down emotional scars or that will not be emotionally well. If I have a fracture, I'll be quite open about it. I'll wear a plaster and still be in my class. But if I'm not being very well emotionally, I can't do that. And that's not acceptable. I will think about the thousand judgment that will come. And even if I have the courage to go down to the class, I'm sure there will be a lot of judgment that people will end up putting on me or talking about it. Which will again impact me. So it is so different for physical health and mental health. So I think there is not a lot of awareness. We don't know what we really are talking about when we say depression or anxiety. For anxiety, I feel it's also a feeling, it's also a basic mechanism that all of us go through. And it's the intensity of it which would say that, okay, is it normal or not? For example, if I have my maths exam, which is the toughest subject that I can think of, and I have it prepared, tomorrow is my exam, feel anxious, do you say it's normal or not? It is normal, right? But even after having completed my exam, even after say I've scored fairly well, I'm still very anxious about that particular exam that's in past. Then you might think that something is not right. So we need to look at what's happening. So that's about anxiety. About depression, I feel that people use the word depression to talk about sadness. And when we talk about emotions, happiness is something that is widely celebrated. We have many festivals around it. Excitement and all joy, positivity, excitement, all these positive and negative emotions go with this classification, which I don't understand. I think emotions are natural and they're not important. So this classification has done this thing that some of them are really celebrated and nice, and some of them are not good. So if somebody is crying, everybody is doing the rush. How to make this person stop crying? Or if the person is feeling scared that no, be strong. I don't know what is very strong about hiding your fear. If I am on this height and I feel that I might fall, if I'm expressing that on some joking, I think just expressing your feelings, being open about them, doesn't make a person strong or weak. The way we deal with them is what makes the person probably strong or weak. These are labels which don't really make sense to me. So what happens is that sadness, somehow it needs to be fixed. As soon as you say, hey, I'm feeling upset or I'm feeling sad, others will say, अरे खुश हो जाओ या फिर meditation कर ले या ये खा ले ठीक हो जाएगा. But does it actually change those things? I don't think it actually does. And I think that's why they communicate the intensity of the feeling and to say that this is a real feeling so that people don't get dismissed. It's probably why they say that I'm feeling depressed. So depression का मतलब है depression. I mean at least acknowledge sadness को हम ऐसे ही भाग निकालते हैं ऐसे ही side में choose करते हैं. But I don't feel this is my personal opinion. No psychologist says so. I do think that if we start acknowledging sadness and all these emotions equally, then probably there will be more awareness and using these words, people will use them more carefully. Right now we're talking about using this word to talk about feelings which are not otherwise seen, not otherwise acknowledged, but there is this need to be seen and acknowledged. That's probably there.
So basically, you're saying that when someone's sad, like, days like angry that you should try to make them up, you should try to uplift them, you should try to make them happy. What? Like, no, that's the basic thing, but what do you do? Like, that's what we have heard in the childhood. So, but what do you say that let them please?
I think talk to the person about it. They might know the best. So I had this friend who she had like a breakdown in the middle of the day in her college. And same thing, all of her friends tried to sort of, give don't cry. It's not such a big deal, whatever. Through the day she kept struggling to really try to calm her, cheer her up, and she do these gifts and food. Nothing else. What helped was this other friend who asked that, do you want to just talk or not? And she said, I don't have energy. So they just went in the class. They were in this canteen or area and they spent the entire hour without talking, just holding hands. This one was crying, the other one was just there to listen. अगर पानी चाहिए तो पकड़ा दिया, अगर कुछ खाने को चाहिए तो पकड़ा दिया, and just that. That made her feel safe. That made her feel that she can let her emotions go. That's when she started talking about it. That's what she needed. Sometimes people might know what they need. So ask them, okay, if you're not doing anything, is there something that I can do? What would you like? And you can also in that, if the person is not, sometimes you might know what you need exactly. Yeah, sometimes you say, okay, I just need somebody to listen to me. Sometimes you say, I need somebody to help me out, understand the situation, analyze the situation, make a decision, or have an intellectual discussion. And sometimes you might just want to have a cup of coffee and talk about the most random thing, or probably watch the most useless show and go like that. So ask the question. And there will also be situations where the person doesn't know what they do. So you can give them that space, do whatever you think can be done, let them know that this is what I'm trying to do to help you to support. If this doesn't work, you can try something else. Let's figure it out. It's okay to say that I don't know, but it's important to say that even though I don't know, I'm here for you. I'm there to support you, and I genuinely care about you. That I think is an important message to support.
I experience this thing that sometimes the person in front of you doesn't really want you to comment on the situation. They just want you to listen. Just listen and sit with them. I mean, I've experienced this with my friend. Sometimes I used to comment on something, it just annoyed me. And after few of such instances, I realized that she doesn't actually want me to comment and advise her how to do this and this, but instead she just wants me to sit and listen and then think. So I think this works good with people who try to talk about their feelings. People who really want to put up their feelings into the world. I think that is what we should do. We should just listen to them and not just always come up with the vibe.
Yeah, not every time on my need a So ask them, what do you need? What might help? A cup of coffee can help.
My case is vanilla milkshake.
Yeah.
So you talked about the representation of various issues in the media. So what do you think about these issues that are represented in the pop culture? Books, articles, movies, web shows.
Memes also.
Memes.
Memes, so let it be. I think they can get quite mean at times. Bollywood movie is also not a huge fan of that. Books, I think there are certain books that have beautifully portrayed the whole struggle. And I probably because it's a 300-page thing or 400, 500-page thing, they go in the details, which a movie is 2 to 3 hours. It's difficult to capture what a book can capture, what a web series can capture. In terms of web series, I haven't seen a lot, so I can't say what is it like. I'm sure there are some really good ones. I'm sure there are some okayish ones as well. But what I think is that any movie or any of these things, anything that talks about human stories will talk about mental health somewhere or the other. Either it's directly or not, that's different. Mental illness might be directly there, or it might just be a theme somewhere here or there. So that again, I think it's his perspective. I was reading this book called Sita's Sister. This is a very different book about whatever happened with her and everything. But I think the book also talks about neglect. Neglect is a form of abuse, emotional abuse, which not a lot of people talk about. It doesn't get acknowledged that much. So the harm that it does to a person is not seen very much. And that's the whole story of neglect. So, and that this book brings out that. So that's why I think that जहाँ भी होगा mental health तो होगा ही होगा. Illnesses का कैसे portrayal है, that I think it's something that still needs to be worked on, especially in India. I think down south there's some good web series and movies, but here in north I haven't come across something which is as great. And I use these simple movies, like there's this one movie called Golu by Children's Film Society. It's a very simple book. It's a simple movie where it talks about grandson and grandmother's relationship and their struggle of finishing one goal. But that movie, it has almost all the emotions, one human experience. And I use that movie to talk about mental health wherever I try to use that movie in Rajasthan because it's a very local movie, very local in language. So people relate to it instantly. And using that movie, I have been able to talk about emotions to people who would otherwise just say कैसा लग रहा है, अच्छा लग रहा है या बुरा लग रहा है, good or bad, not even happy or sad, just good, bad, happy, sad, बाद में आते हैं. So I think yeah, that's my take.
Madam, what is the name of that movie?
Gauru.
Gauru.
Yes, obviously the local cinema does wonders when it comes to talk about social awareness. Obviously, Bollywood is reachable to all, but a lot of people don't really connect with it.
Not watch any Bollywood movie.
I don't know. I've recently struggled. Last 5 years, I haven't seen.
Like when we're talking about mental issues and that scale, like there's one movie called Dear Zindagi.
That I've seen. That I like.
Okay.
I really like Tare Zameen Par. I think that was a beautiful movie, and that's something that I still keep using those clippings in my sessions and seminars with people. So, but after that, I haven't come across something that I can use to talk so widely. So, I would say, वहाँ पे I know less. I have consumed less of those things.
Yeah. Okay. So another thing. So you're talking about all this anxiety, depression. What is your point of view on medication? Like I have a small incident. So this happened to me during JE times. So we had to give JE 4 times. Rather than regularly, it happens twice a year. We had to give it 4 times. So and there were other exams, right? There was BITSAT, there was an exam of BIT, and there were many engineering exams to go through. So this happened. I think I was in between exams, and like after I think the second JE mains, I noticed I was talking to myself a lot. Yeah, so I used to look myself into the mirror and used to just talk to the reflection. And in movies it seems pretty natural, but like when you're doing it in real life, it does feel a bit spooky. So I just thought, okay, this is like a normal thing, so I just shoved it away. But then I started doing this on a regular basis. So I used to talk, and not even like pep talks, like okay, you have to do it, you have to ace JE, crack JE and all. I used to ask what for dinner. I used to ask my reflection what's for dinner, and I used to think, wait, what's happening? And so I thought, okay, this is something which is a bit wrong. And I went to my parents. I told them that this sort of thing is happening. Can we just consult a therapist about this? Like, can we just know? And you as you told before about the awareness thing, that they also thought that they were partially in that zone that कोई भी mental issue मतलब कि हमारा बच्चा पागल है. That was their thing. So, but हमने so they were like it happened in both competition है इतना तो ये होता है कभी कभी and they also shoved it away. And after a while, it got worse when I started making up like these people in front of me, like imagining people in front of me and talking to them. So that got it got worse. Okay, so then I told my father about this. I told my mother, and I just told them, okay, let's just do one thing, a bit bacheloring work, and I just told them, let's just consult. I'm not saying go to them and get treated. I just consult and know what it is. So we consulted a therapist, and he I told him about my problem, and he told that you are suffering from performance anxiety. Since it was competitive, so that sort of thing happens. It's natural. You're just coping up, and that's one of your coping mechanisms. So he told me just suffering from performance anxiety, and he suggested me a film. Like in the first week only, and like okay, he told me it's a very light dose. It was half a pill, not even full, more than even full one. So he suggested me that, and he suggested me that, and it got over. So and then later on, my father, he bought the medicine and all, and before I could take one, he denied me of it. He told me don't take this, and he told me, see, it's basically that you are taking the easy way out. You see that you're getting depressed, and you will take these pills, and then you just come out of it, and you'll see that this is the easy way out. So you may get dependent on it, and you may end up getting addicted to it also. So the thing was, so he told me not to take the pills, and as a result, I stopped taking. I didn't take them. I didn't take them. And so basically, his alternative for that was that my parents just started spending more and more time with me. Now it was a pandemic, so it helped, because they were in the house only. So they just started spending more time with me. Whenever they saw I was free, they would call me to just have a chat, And whenever I was just working alone, I used to be one of my parents inside the room. So that thing would happen, and we would go for walks now and then all the time. So that really reduced my anxiety. I started talk. At the end I stopped talking to myself. So it really worked. Now my question to you is, if you were in the place of the therapist, what would have you done? Like, would you have also prescribed me a medicine, or you would have had a different approach? I know it's a bit
hypothetical situation, because the day I work, I would have met you for an hour, understood what's happening, what is the struggling with the law, and all those things. And then we would have taken it from there, based on what comes in that session. But if your question is about medication, then I would say that there are a few things which are important. First of all, medication is only prescribed by a psychiatrist.
Psychiatrist.
And then also you cannot refer to me as a doctor. I'm a psychotherapist, not a doctor. So medication is prescribed only by a psychiatrist. And there also you can have this conversation with them that what is this medication for? Will it have any side effect or not? Can I manage without these medications? So in few situations, or in a lot of them, like yours, I'm not sure, I don't know the whole thing, but it's still saying that in a lot of situations you can manage without medication, but then they will ask you to make some lifestyle changes, like you increase your time with your family members. So there might be a few other things. There are people who get who are prescribed that you need to exercise so much, you need to do that. So don't compromise on that. You need to eat such and such kind of food. You do need to socialize. You do need to start your counseling or therapy. And those lifestyle changes, if you make, then you can manage without medication. And even then, you will probably have your psychiatrist review, say 1 month, once in 3 months, or once in 6 months. So that's how often you meet your psychiatrist, and that again depends on what your story is, what is the intensity of your struggle. Whereas for a therapist, you're more likely to meet a therapist once a week, or sometimes more than that, or once in 15 days. Again, depends on what you're struggling with, what your story is, what your therapy work with your therapist is. But always feel free to ask these questions. What happens is that people don't know that they can ask these questions, and that you can say that I'd like to manage as much as possible without medication, and I'm ready to make that commitment, or whatever lifestyle changes are there. If you start having those conversations, that I think that will make a difference. Otherwise, in some situations, it is important to take medication. It's not that they're all wrong or they're all right. Again, it is something that in some situations you cannot avoid. Some situations it it complements the treatment that's going on, be it therapy or counseling, and sometimes that's the way to start. If a psychiatrist prescribes some medicine to you, and if they say that no, like apart from lifestyle changes, you need to take these medicines. So again, you can ask them that how, not just ask them. They're supposed to help you come on medicine. They're also supposed to help you get off medicine. That's something that doesn't really happen. So there are a lot of psychiatrists who might just keep prescribing medicines to you, and after a point keep increasing the dose. So then you know that probably that's not the kind of psychiatrist you want to be. But ask these questions. Tell them that I need help. I need your help in coming off these medications as well. And meanwhile, what all can I do? What all should I do to make sure that my transition is done? And you cannot come off medicines without a psychiatrist review, because again, that will impact both your emotional health and your physical health. It has a lot of those impacts. So I would never say that without consulting a psychiatrist, don't just randomly start these medication, don't just randomly stop them. They can have a severe impact. But have those conversations with them. Pester your psychiatrist as much as you can. Be it for yourself or people around you. This is basic awareness. And people don't know it, and that's how lack of awareness becomes more harmful. But yeah, I think medication is not all right or wrong. It depends.
Also, I like to mention, in his case, he had to ask for a medication and ask for medication to come out of that zone where he was talking to himself. In my case, talking to myself itself became a medication for me, in fact, because when I had stuff to talk about, I took a gap year for college, and at that time things were pretty difficult for me. I had nobody to talk to, frankly. And I think I found the person within me. I used to stand in front of the mirror and I used to talk to myself for hours. I remember last time when I had a good conversation with myself, it was like 3 hours straight. I was standing in front of the mirror, and it never turned spooky for me. In fact, it worked as a medication, and I feel if I wouldn't have done that, things would have been really similar in my case. Because I had so much to process in my brain, and I could only do it because I was talking to myself. So I think one situation is different for, I think, everybody.
Yeah.
Now when we talk about coping mechanisms, I've seen people getting addicted to stuff also. Some people use a cigarette, they use substance abuse for coping up with depression, anxiety. Some people have this food addiction to cope up with that. So what is your point of view on that? On these addictions, like what can you do to tackle them? Because it's like to get out of that mental anxiety, you indulge yourself into this addiction. But to get out of that also, it's
the vicious cycle that follows. If you have some stress, anxiety, you just try to divert your mind by getting an addiction of maybe social media, food, or maybe any substance. And then when later on you realize that it's unhealthy, and you know that you need to get out of this addiction of that particular thing, again it becomes the same stress that I need to get out of it. So it becomes a cycle. To get out of the stress, you get addicted. Then to get out of that addiction, you again get the stress. So what do you say on it?
I think like you mentioned that you're trying to cope with something, but the coping mechanism in itself becomes a problem. Addiction it's a different branch of psychology in itself. There are mental health professionals who just specialize in substance abuse and how to work with that. But I think there's this one saying in Hindi कि कोई भी चीज़ की आदत खराब ही होती है, and that's where probably addiction starts from. So So I think it's important to not just have one coping mechanism, but at least 4 to 5 of them. Like even your support system, having one friend, or and rather than having just one friend, having 4 to 5 of them would help. If I'm in a crisis, I reach out to my one friend. She doesn't answer for whatever reason. If I just have one person and if she doesn't answer, then I'm likely to feel very low and quite upset about situations that it might make me feel quite rejected. But if I have 3 or 4 other people who probably somebody's working, somebody's studying, somebody's just probably chilling and they happen to answer my call. So I have somebody else to reach out to and my crisis also gets taken care of. Meanwhile, others can get back in whatever time they have. So that's why I think it's important to have at least 4 to 5 resources to go and to also keep a check on yourself that if you don't overdo anything, be it it's not just about addictions. These are the addictions that we really know about. There are a lot of different kinds of addictions as well which we don't really talk about. But the struggle with them is also the same. So yes, it is. I would say build your other support system and your coping mechanisms, be it with people, but otherwise also engaging in hobbies, activities that you enjoy doing. Um, have 4 to 5 of them, not just painting, but painting, listening to music, maybe dancing, maybe walking, and keep doing all of these things. It is about, it's important to focus on your relationship with yourself. And there you need to focus on what is happening for you, how different things are impacting you. Maybe that's one relationship where you can be completely transparent and feel safe to be that. It's still difficult to build that transparency, to feel that safe with different people. And it will take time, which I think it's important to give that process that time. But with yourself, it's also important because I cannot keep ignoring and cannot keep suppressing these things. And that's also a very safest relationship that I can have. I can be very open to myself, and then through that I can get strength to be open to people in my support system, to people in my community, in my tribe. And eventually there will be people who you might realize, okay, this is not a person I can probably talk about my relationship struggles with, but if I have anything to do with academics, I can reach out to this person, this is reliable that. So you कहते हैं ना हर एक फ्रेंड जरूरी होता है, तो इस हिसाब से हर तरीके का सपोर्ट सिस्टम भी जरूरी होता है. तो ऐसे ही नहीं कहते हैं कि बाहर भी घूमो करो, पढ़ाई वाई भी करो, करियर का भी ध्यान दो, मस्ती भी करो, एंटरटेनमेंट भी देखो. I think it's all very important, and that's how the holistic thing is there. We cannot look at mental health by isolating it from other aspects of our lives. Similarly, you cannot look at health or you cannot look at physical health by completely ignoring mental health. So these are all interconnected. And that's why it's important to look at all these aspects of your life rather than just focusing on one thing and not focusing on the others.
It's the balance that is.
And balance can keep changing at different places, different days, different situations of your life.
Okay, so you know how there is still lack of awareness in India about mental health, and like it's still there. It's there. It's prevalent in metro cities. You know, it's becoming a thing, but most of India is still a thing which is not so encouraged. So, but you know, even though there is help in the places where there is help, where there are authorities for such stuff, there is this fear of asking. There is this fear of just seeking help. How do you, because you know, because when you are asking for help, you of course you think of all the judgmental people around you. What are they going to think? Are they going to think I'm mad? Are they going to think I'm crazy? How do you think one can tackle that fear?
Again, I would say there's no one right way to tackle this, but see, sometimes what happens is people have reached out for help knowing that their family members might not support them. So they're not telling them and still getting the help that they need. Eventually, in time, they might tell them. Some people who go through the whole journey of telling them and psychoeducating their family and then reaching out for help. Sometimes you might find yourself in a situation where you can see a loved one or a friend struggling, and you know they need help, but they don't believe in therapy. So how do you get your point across that you need this? And then there'll be a lot of judgment, a lot of stigma that is into play. These judgments are these stigma, these things which are related to stigma. So how do you deal with this stigma? Sometimes you might have to sort of hide and work. Sometimes you might have to keep psycho-educating, keep advocating about mental health. Sometimes you might have to do a mix of both. So it depends on where you are at, what kind of resources do you have, how much energy do you have. It's they say no that you need to choose your battles. So I am sometimes it's okay to make this decision that I need help for myself and I don't have the energy to do the whole psycho-education bit. So I reach out to my friends, I tell my mother about it, maybe not my sister, and we do whatever we need to do. Later I can talk about it. And I think that's where I feel this awareness plays a major role, because all these judgments will come from lack of awareness. And if we start talking more about that, then the stigma will and the judgments will come down. As in, I don't think you or at least for the two of you, I can assume that if you know somebody in your friend circle who's reaching out for you, you might be more supportive instead of thinking that you might not use it. So this is how it starts. It's important to build that safe space, to let people open up and to open up yourself. And again, there's no right or wrong way to deal with this stigma, deal with these judgments. Unfortunately, at this time, if you are reaching out for help, somewhere or the other, you will come across these challenges. You will have to work around this. Maybe 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line, we might be in a situation where the people understand this more. The judgments are lesser or probably not there. But this generation, these people who are starting the journey, it will be difficult for them. So it is unfortunate, but it invariably is a part of the journey. That is what I think.
What if someone doesn't have people to approach? So like people who are introverted, who do not talk to many people, and they want to seek out for help, and obviously there's a stigma around, so they don't want to consult psychologists or psychiatrists in the first place. What would they do in that situation?
They don't want to consult psychiatrists or psychologists.
As if they're introverts, they do not, obviously, if anyone who's suffering through some mental health problem would not want to go to a psychologist in the first place. They would try to.
And that's another thing. If you have a mental health concern, it's not that only a mental health professional will help. Others can also. That's why we have our friends, family, colleagues, classmates, different mentors, different people play different roles. So it's not just, and we have all supported each other in all of our journeys, in all of our lives in different capacities. And all of that support counts, that does make a difference. Yes, we cannot do what a professional can do, and at the same time, what a professional cannot do what a family member can do or what a friend can do. So all of these things are important. So if I'm not in a position to reach out to a therapist or a counselor, then I might reach out to a friend, might reach out to a family member. With their help, if help is needed, then there's no two ways about it. You need to go. So उधर तक पहुंचने के लिए what are the resources that you need? You can make that journey with someone else's support, with support of your people. हालांकि introvert people, that's a different thing in itself. There might be people who are introvert, they derive their energy from spending time within themselves. It's not about they don't talk to people or they don't enjoy. They enjoy talking to their people, and they get their energy or their battery recharges within through their me time. For extroverts, it's the opposite. When they socialize, is when they get their energy to basically do their daily life. But it doesn't mean that an introvert will never talk or somebody who's an extrovert will keep talking throughout the day. That's not how it is.
Okay, so any experience, I mean, you have a lot of experience. So any experience you had in your career where you went like, okay, that's a challenge, that was a challenge, or anything you can share?
I think that's a challenge, is something that we all come across every time. I don't have a lot of experience. I've been working for 7 years, and I think I still feel that there are a lot of times where I feel that I need to learn more, I need to do more. So I think you're talking about human lives, you're talking about a field which was neglected for centuries. So nothing is going to feel enough. Challenging moments I've had a lot. I think I've struggled. I somewhere struggled to work with body image concerns, because that's something that I really feel for. So it's difficult to not let my anger impact the work that I'm doing. Similarly, I think my first few people who I had worked with, there was a lot of what ifs, what if this goes wrong, what if that goes wrong. But I think, and that's where even therapists needs to have their own support system. Their professional support system is very important. That's something that down south they do give it a lot of importance. I don't think it's as much there here in North India, but it is essential, and it's just something that one should never compromise on. Be it your training, be it your supervision, your therapy, your whatever updating your training that keeps happening. It is very, very essential to work with these kind of challenges because human life is like that. It is very, very complicated. Sometimes there's a lot of trauma. It's hard to not feel about it. It's hard to not relate to that and feel whatever this brings up. So how do you work with that without shunning your emotions? Because if you shun your emotions, if a therapist shuns their emotions, then how will they work? You cannot also get carried away. It's a
Therapists also have a support system.
as as in their own support system,
Yeah.
as a human, as friends, family, then their professional support system, as in all the trainings that they keep going through their supervision, which is basically different. It's a setup where different counselors and therapists they discuss their work, keeping the confidentiality intact, but talking about the work that they're doing. So different people can talk about. These are essentials, and down south, the moment you start your psychology course, these become, you have your supervision group, you have your own personal therapy starting from the day when you're told that by the end of the year, these many sessions you should have had. And the idea is that until unless you experience what it is like to be on the patient's chair, how will you be on that chair? And that is something that keeps going on. As in the organization that I was working with, Hamilton Institute, one of the something that you cannot compromise on was that you need to have your personal therapy going on. And that's not to say that we are be pagal ho ya aise kuch, but you need a space where you can talk about your life separately and you can separate your professional life. So that's a non-negotiable. So these are things that one should not from
Okay, so that was
from
from
our
our
side.
side. Anything from the audience? Anyone from the audience?
So you did mention that we all know a lot about physical health and you know how to like we all know that exercising helps or you know we keep a check about all those things about what we eat and so these are a few things we know about physical health. So are there some things which we can do for our mental health like for example like we exercise and eat the right food so that we don't you know we are physically fit. So is there something which we can consciously do in order to be mentally fit or you know take care of ourselves as in
Yeah, I think there are few things that will definitely do engage in few activities which you enjoy doing. It could be your hobbies, reading, writing, dancing, whatever. Doing activities is something that's going to building a support system, people who you think you can reach out to, and you can feel safe enough to be vulnerable. So that is one other thing that you can do. To keep checking in, to work on your relationship with yourself and with your relationship with others as well, family, friends, partners, colleagues, mentors. So yeah, keep talking about those things. Socializing, that's something that you enjoy. So include things that you enjoy doing. Let your emotions breathe. If you're feeling sad, it's okay. Let's feel sad rather than just dismissing it or not talking about it. Focus on relationship with yourself as much as you focus on other relationships. And yeah, maybe to see, keep checking in to see that what does your balance look like at this stage of your life? And is there something that is getting overlooked? Is there something that's getting a lot more time than required? These are a few things you can check.
I want to ask that what is your advice for overthinkers or how to cope up with overthinking because that's a major part where we I think mental health is damaged in overthinking.
Um, Again, there's no one this thing about how do you work with overthinking, but I would then ask you that what is it that you're overthinking about?
Like career problems and then how to yeah if I'm getting bad grades then it starts from that I'm getting bad grades and then end up in matters like love like I'm not that capable I'm not having this much and that much, and it starts from a thing and it's end up in another topic. That adds up in another topic.
I think one way to go about it is, I would want, like if you're saying that it's to do with your career, so there is a stress there which is unaddressed. So maybe that needs more time and attention, and not just by yourself. Maybe take somebody else's help, your teacher, your mentor, whoever. If it is always to do with a certain thing, but there will come, if it is a habit that you find yourself overthinking about almost every other thing, then you might need to engage in things so that you can tell yourself that now I need to stop, now I need to do something else. I might tell you, so again, here I would talk to you a little more to understand how does this work for you. And then there might be things that I might tell you to sort of engage in few other distractions, like pay attention to other parts of your life as well. Give equal time to your socializing, to your rest, to your if there is any spiritual part of your life or your entertainment, your studies, and then again it will depend. Sometimes you might want to address, as much as it's important to address the root cause, it's also important to make those changes in your behavior, the way you are thinking, the way you are managing different situations.
I would end up thinking, why am I overthinking? So anyone think?
So when should individuals go for reach to a professional? Like maybe I am suffering and maybe I have problems, but this thought comes that okay, maybe I'm just making it up, because other people have it worse. So when and how should I know that okay, I do need a professional help and this is not just
Two things that which you can definitely say is there is one emotion that you're feeling more often than the others. So say for sadness, I find myself feeling sad more often, or if I feel empty most of the time. So if there are such situations, then definitely reach out for help. And the opposite of it is also true. If I feel that since last 1 week or so, I've been feeling a lot of different emotions more than usual. जैसे दिवाली पे आपको एक्साइटमेंट भी होती है, टेंशन भी होती है, खुशी भी होती है, प्लानिंग भी करनी होती है, but if you feel that even after Diwali you've been experiencing a wide range of emotions which is sort of unusual as compared to the situations in your life, then you might need to reach out to therapists, just check with them. And again, I'm not taking away this mean that you need therapy. I'm saying this is something to be looked at. Now, based on what is happening, the context is very important when we talk about mental health. That's when one might know, okay, does this require attention or not, or is it a phase that one is going through? If there is sudden increase in appetite or sudden decrease, same for sleep. If there is you find yourself in constant conflict with those around you, or you find lack of energy, not wanting to talk to anybody, not enjoying the things that you usually do. So these are few things that you do know that you do need to reach out. These are clear indications. But if you've been feeling like not yourself, or if you've been thinking about it for a long time, then I would say go have a conversation. It will be like a 1 hour conversation. At least try it out. You don't always have to engage in full 1 year, 6 months, 3 month therapy. You can just see what it feels like to you in that 1 hour. Does it click or not? Does it make sense or not?
So I had a question. I felt this personally that a lot of time institutions, they're not very receptive to mental health questions. Like if I go to a professor and I say that I broke my leg, I'm more likely to get a deadline extension than if I say that, I've been suffering from anxiety. And I do realize this is a very open-ended question. It requires a lot more effort than what you can cover in maybe one 3-minute answer, 4-minute answer. But I was asking that since you've worked in NGOs and you've had some years of experience, have you ever seen something that was done to bring some sort of change, institutionalized change regarding mental health? So like any initiative that actually created a wider impact on how people or some sort of institution started taking mental health more seriously, something like that.
I think you will find this in some of the mental health institutes themselves. Because they're working with day-to-day law. So there is a culture of acceptance. There is this culture of understanding. So they will check in with each other at with all their colleagues in the beginning of the day or how are things, or if you see somebody struggling, if you see sudden change in the way a person is carrying themselves, then they do have that conversation. And they somehow, it's not just talking about it or awareness sessions and seminars, but in their culture they have somehow created this safe space where people do talk about it. Here I recently got to know about it. It's a very random example. There's a Airbnb called Anandamai in Jaipur. So there they had a similar situation where employees felt safe enough to talk about their feelings with their owners. And that was just to do basic check-in, and that's how it all started. But they felt safe to talk about what is happening, and this doesn't mean that they're not working for the day or the work gets impacted. So I think it's as much as we talk about it, it is to walk the talk, and it will take time. It's easy. Right now, I have found a lot of people where they do say that we support mental health, stress, anxiety, we do talk about it. But at the same time, they also, they probably might see it popping up in their workplace, they might not even notice it. So any action will begin once you start noticing it. So it's a whole training, and it will take a lot of time. So I think it's, like you said, it will take a lot of effort, but it is developing that culture as well, and it also involves understanding, learning more about it, questioning it, ask all the questions that you need to. If I get a person who I'm working with and she says or he says that, this is what I'm going through, if I don't know about it, I'll go back, read up, and maybe we come back. Maybe I'll say that, this is what I can do, this is something that I cannot compromise on. So can we make something here? Can we work something out here? But all of those options will open up once we understand and acknowledge it. So I think awareness is one thing. And then constant learning, psychoeducation is, I think, the second step.
Okay, first of all, I must congratulate Media Cell for taking up this topic so seriously, and it is, I think, well done. And I think what you should do, that you should write up whatever we have learned today, because I have seen earlier that Media Cell has done quite a good write-up. So I think a good write-up is necessary for whatever we have learned. Otherwise, whatever we have discussed, it will be lost. That is the first thing. As my questions, I have two questions. One is like, suppose say if a person is suffering or having some problem, whether he should go to a psychoanalyst or psychotherapist or a psychiatrist. So that is one of my questions. Second question, I have a little bit of technical, because I feel like, most of the time whenever we talk about medicines, we talk about allopathic medicine. What is your idea about, there are many other alternative medicines which are equally efficient, and I have seen it working. Like, some clot therapies are there, they are known as back clot therapies. Homeopathy is there, Ayurveda is there, acupressure is there. What is do you have any experience with that?
The first part of your question, that how do you know which professional to go to? There are few basics, as in psychiatrist is a medical doctor, so they will give you a diagnosis. So whether it's depression, personality difficulty, or anxiety disorders, this is what a psychiatrist does. They will give you a diagnosis, along with it, if required, medicine. And then you have your review based on the situation. It might be once in 3 months, once in a month, or once in 6 months. Your psychiatric review might happen. You go to a counselor when, for example, if I'm struggling for understanding what should I do, or making a choice with respect to my career. So there I can go to a counselor, counseling is a short-term process where there is a goal, and that's what you work towards. Now, in the process of figuring out my career, I might also talk about my family struggles, what's happening in school or college, but the goal is to understand your career struggles. But when we talk about psychotherapy or psychoanalysis, which is a kind of psychotherapy, it's a longer work. So long-term difficulties, long-term relationship patterns, these are the things that you can work with in psychotherapy. Usually in psychotherapy, the minimum commitment is for about 8 months to a year, or sometimes it can go longer. And it is because whatever we are working on has piled up across the years. It cannot just get treated in a day or two or in a couple of months. If you need to actually, it's like counseling is first aid, then psychotherapy is like surgery or long-term treatment. So that these are a few basics. But apart from that, I would say that go to any mental health professional, maybe to a psychologist or a counselor, and they'll be able to tell you that if you come to me, and if you need a psychiatrist review, I will let you know that. And similarly, if you reach out to a psychiatrist and you don't need medicine, but maybe counseling will help, the psychiatrist is supposed to tell you that. You can always ask these questions, ask as many questions as you want to any of the mental health professionals. It's your life at the end of the day. So you do have a right to be involved in the whole process, in the whole treatment. So that's part one. Second, about alternative forms of therapy. I have heard about them, I have heard about some of them. I don't have a lot of experience. I know again, it's similar. It works well for a lot of people. For some of them, it doesn't work as much. So again, something to explore. And it is important to understand, to make that exploration and to figure out what works for you, what doesn't.
So yeah, I think we can wrap up. Okay, so that concludes this podcast. Thank you everyone for coming here.